Awaken Bharata, a call for India's rebirth. This is the title of my third book edition for Bloomsbury, India, and it reflects one of the main areas of study and inspiration for me over the decades, and my exploration of India, Hinduism, Sanatana Dharma, yoga, Vedic knowledge, Vedanta. And it more specifically addresses we could say, the civilizational and the national issues. I am Dr. David Frawley, also known as Vamadeva Shastri, and as someone who has dedicated their lives to the pursuit of the knowledge of the Indic and Vedic tradition, I've also come into contact with its civilizational issues and trying to understand its civilizational roots. For those of us who look at India, India is a term that's coming from the West, and we often like to look at India in terms of modern politics, a nation state devised in 1947, for example. And we often look at the history of India as kind of a footnote or a sidelight to the greater movement of civilization from the West. And even in India itself, a lot of the intellectuals are caught up in this kind of Western view of India, political view of India. India as a modern socialist, secular state. And they've lost the connection with the older aspects of the Indic civilization. If we go back to India's constitution, it says the India that is Bharat. And this is the key to understanding India. It also tells us that those who framed the constitution and part of the Indian independence movement was an awakening of Bharat. Bharat is the ancient name for India and Indian civilization, which is called Bharatiya Sanskriti. So this whole debate, whether there has ever been a country called India, whether we're creating a new India after 1947, whether there was an old India, whether it was relevant, all of that can be dealt with very quickly by going back to the India that is Bharat or Bharata. This idea of the Bharatas is there in Rig Veda itself, where the Bharata kings dwelling on the Saraswati and Drishadvati rivers, offshoots of the culture of Manu, offshoots of the Purus, of the 5 Vedic people, whereas the Bharata kings with King Bharat himself, great emperors, that dynasty, kind of created the framework or the foundation, the central movement of the Bharatiya or the Indian civilization. We find the Bharatas lauded in the Brahmanas, Upanishad, and then we have the great text of Mahabharata, which is about a civil war in the Bharata community, specifically one branch of the Bharatas called the Kurus. The Kurus became the dominant branch of the Bharatas and one of the main dominant peoples in ancient India. So this Mahabharata is about the unfoldment and the development of the Bharata people and the teachers, the gurus, Krishna that came through that. So that Bharata tradition continues. And throughout history, India was called Bharat all the way into the independence movement. And Bharata refers to a civilization, not simply a country. And India as a civilization, you cannot be equated to a nation state like France or Germany. India has a population greater than all of Africa, double that of Europe. And certain states within India, like Tamil Nadu, have a history and a literature older than probably any country in Europe. Sometimes people say India is not unified. India is much more unified than Europe has been, and India is significantly more unified for the future than Europe is today. So India, Bharat, is a vast civilization. And yet there's been a tendency to look at Bharat according to outside ideas, socially, politically, religiously. So we need to recognize Bharatiya civilization, Dharmic civilization, the civilization of Hinduism, Buddhism, the Sikh, the Jain, Ayurveda, Yoga, Vedanta, all the meditation traditions, the great temples, the great epics, the drama, the music, the dance, a civilization that was not simply limited to geographical India. Greater India extended throughout all of Southeast Asia. Largest Hindu temple complex in the world is Angkor Wat in Cambodia, and also spread and influenced East Asia, Central Asia, and many other countries. Bharat as a great civilization. And it was the hope of those behind the independence movement that the independence of India would bring about an awakening of that Bharatiya civilization overall. To some extent it has, with the spread of the yogic and dharmic teachings worldwide. But to another extent, Bharat has not fully awakened. India has still been under a Nehruvian, socialist, and Marxist yoke. The thinkers in the country follow alien political ideologies and seldom respect or understand their own traditions. For example, very few of the Indian intellectuals even bothered to study Vedanta or even Vedas, or very few of them will even practice something like yoga, meditation, mantra. Their minds are more happy in London or Beijing than they are in the heartland of Kashi, Varanasi, or the great temple regions of Bharat. So for India to gain its full independence and to reclaim its culture and place in the world, it must awaken, arise, be reborn as Bharat. That is actually what the great thinkers of the world would like India to be. India traditionally was the Vishwa Guru, the guru of humanity, the source of great universities, the source of great gurus. Even today, most of the gurus guiding humanity have been coming out of India. Even starting when it was still under British rule, there was not, that culture did not come to an end. It continued. And that Bharatiya culture continues today, but it is also under siege. Marxist, missionary, jihadi influences, even commercial influences trying to marginalize the temples, the festivals. We have an event like Kumbh Mela, 220 million people visiting for this snan, for this pilgrimage and this special bathing in the sacred rivers, the Ganga, the coming together of Ganga and Yamuna. This tradition is vibrant and alive, but is also being challenged, being marginalized in various areas, and it is not given its proper place in terms of history, politics, society. How many people throughout the world know anything of the history of India? And even you could say, oh, there was no country called India, but just various kingdoms. Then why do you have the same practices and mantras done from Kanyakumari to Kailas? Why do you have the same great gurus honored? Shankaracharya went to all the four corners of India, Himalayas, Eastern, Western Ocean, down to Kerala. Many of the great gurus of India have done that pilgrimage throughout the country. And there has always been a sacred geography of Bharat that has kept the country together. So that Bharat is a spiritual formulation Bharat Mata, for example, Mother India, it is not just a political or an economic formulation, although those dimensions have been there to some degree. It is not just a religious formation in terms of a common belief, but of an ongoing spiritual aspiration. So that is the Bharata that we are calling to be reborn in this particular book. It is a call that many gurus, Sri Aurobindo has made that statement also. It is a call towards the Ram Raja, or the rule of Dharma, represented by Sri Ram. And it is a call for defenders of the Bharatiya culture and civilization, including gurus and jnanis, but also intellectual kshatriya, to guide the country forward, to renew the civilization in the information technology era. My original call for an intellectual kshatriya more than 20 years ago was already there in an earlier version of this particular book. And we are making that call again because now the information technology era is so expanded that the Hindu presence in the media is essential. And we've had a Hindu awakening in the social media. We've had a Hindu awakening even now at cultural, political, the idea that Dharma must be there in society, that a state should not be a religious state, doesn't mean that there should be no Dharma in the society. So it's very essential for India to reclaim its full independence and its full self-power, its Shakti, its identity, that there is the linkage of modern India with Bharat, the Bharatiya tradition, the great gurus, their influence, the Chakravartins, the great emperors of times past, the integration of Dharma, but also the renewal of Dharma in another era, another century, a different formulation of society. We need a sense of Dharma that addresses the issues of the earth, the ecology, democracy, the role of women. India needs to reclaim its diplomatic Bharatiya influence, its influence over through its dharmic traditions that spread throughout Asia and that are still active in many of the countries of the world. And now in the Indian society today, in the country for 2019, we see more the pro-Bharat and the anti-Bharat forces in clash. Those who think that India should be just a secular socialist state such as formed after 1947 versus those who feel that India as Bharat should arise, reclaim and continue that great spiritual and cultural heritage. In this book, I put forth the cause for the need for that Bharat to arise, both for the sake of India and for the sake of the world and for the upcoming planetary age that we are moving into, the greater age of consciousness. So India's role as a civilization must be honored. There should be a new dialogue of civilizations in which the Western civilization is able to humbly seek to understand the dharmic traditions according to their own terminology, according to their own values, and their own deeper sense of humanity, which is not human beings as simply physical bodies in a material world, but human beings as manifestations of a deeper cosmic intelligence working in the material world, but connected to higher levels of consciousness and creativity. So it is crucial that Bharat, spirit, being, identity, culture, civilization is reborn in this new era, new incarnation, because only Dharma can take humanity forward, not simply capitalism, socialism, communism, or any particular ideology or belief system. Only a deeper vision of yogic meditational wisdom, honoring of our rishi traditions, development of a new vision to take us to this cosmic era that we find already presaged in Vedic teachings and all their expanse of understanding the universe within us. So this Bharatiya culture needs that awakening. India needs to reclaim its nature as Bharat, that is both the ancient India and the new India, and that is the spiritual guideline of culture and civilization that the world needs today. And it is something that all people and all countries can welcome, because Dharma is not a matter of enforcing one belief or another for people. It's awakening our connection with the universe as a whole and understanding our own deeper nature that is one with all.